You're listening to The State of Play, your quick-fire roundup of all things Irish football and beyond. Coming up on this episode, the FAI are dragged in front of the Oireachtas again, a new man in the running to replace Stephen Kenny, and the club president who knocked out a referee in Turkey, well, he's resigned. All of this and more coming up on tonight's State of Play. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Dave. Looking forward to covering the Oireachtas committee. Another Gaelic word you've brought into my vocabulary.
Yes, I did what Mick McCarthy had to do. I sent over a phonetic translation via VHS in the post to you. That's what Mick McCarthy had to do to learn the Irish national anthem. Yes, to teach all this, plastic.
Oh,
No. I was just joking.
This is what so many people on YouTube now.
Even more. I've already done that, Martin. It's too late for that, mate. There's no coming back. We'll get to those in a second. David Dunn here, joined by Martin Prendergast as usual. You're very welcome to another episode of The State of Play. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel over at Lansdowne Road, hello. You can see him. Or here. I'm here in my lovely studio here in London, and Martin's in his man cave in his mom's basement. No, just joking. His lovely man cave also in London that his wife probably doesn't know about. Does your wife know about that man cave?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. Was she happy about it?
Yeah, it's the office basically. So
the flags in the background. Yeah. So if you're watching us on YouTube, hello. If not, if you're listening to us on Spotify, but also want to watch us on YouTube as well, head over to YouTube and give us a cheeky little subscribe. There, you can also head over to the website, greenmachinepodcast.com. That's the greenmachinepodcast.com, where you can get all these episodes, audio versions and articles and loads of all that lovely stuff. Right. Well, actually, before we get into it, Martin, let's go into some comments from last week, which are always welcome, by the way, as he says, smirking. No.
Well, we are the most interactive Irish football podcast out there, Dave. So we do welcome the feedback.
We are the voice of fans, and when you have a voice, or you give the fans a voice, sometimes they talk and sometimes they say things you don't want to hear, but that's okay. Obviously, last week we were talking about the FAI, as we are about this week as well, and we mentioned Joey Barton. When I put it up on the Facebook channel over at Lansdowne Road, somebody commented. They were like, "What's this Joey Barton doing on this page? What's he got to do with Irish football? I'm here for Irish football. I've come to the wrong place." It's the state of play, mate. It's about the Irish football team, Irish football and beyond. That's what we do. So, Joey Barton was in vogue for all the wrong reasons, as he always is. And basically, he was giving out about women commenting on the men's game. We had a couple of comments about that. One was from Darren O'Hare. I think that's his name. He's a Bows fans anyway. He just mentioned that this gender balance thing is absolute nonsense. Whatever happened to hiring the best person for the job, regardless of their gender, nationality, race, etc. Fair enough. And then he has somebody commenting there, absolutely spot on. And this same guy, I'm 6'4", 9'4", I don't know. He sort of like agrees with everything. Goes, yeah, it's probably you, Martin, is it? And basically, you have Tom Dance, 33. A big part of entertainment. A big part is entertainment, and none of us want to listen to women about men's football. And your man, I'm mine, 6'4", 9'7". Absolutely, he says. And then Barry Murray, 4923. Let's be honest, 99.9% of men, if they're being completely honest, would prefer men commentating and being pundits on the men's game. Hosting, I have no issue with, but pundits and commentary, no. And he has it all in caps there. It's more like no. And then I'm mine, 6494 comments on that. Anyone who's interested in a game would want the best person for the job. And then Barry Murray responds, yes, someone who's played the game at the highest level. And then comments or in what's the thing? The brackets. And he has a man. Oh, Jesus. I wasn't short of some criticism myself here. Jim Bear, how you doing, Jim? Jim Bear says about, we also talked about Lee Brady wanting maybe Brian Kerr. Well, we are reading about
what a hybrid.
Well, Jesus. Yeah. Oh, God, I don't even want to think about that. That's a mess. But
Jeez.
anyway, I'm going for it this week, Martin. Jim Bear says, I agree, Martin, in terms of Liam Brady saying that he wanted Brian Kerr as Ireland manager. It was at the Soccer Writers Awards, and Brian Kerr was there, and Liam was asked about it. So maybe it's just being generous. Anyway, I agree, Martin. Kerr was probably being talked up simply because he was at the event. I do think David continues to be too harsh in judging Kerr. Young fans would think Kerr couldn't coach. Kerr took over Ireland with 2 losses in 2000 in the 2004 Euros campaign and came close to qualifying, where he came down to the last game. In 2006 World Cup qualifying, he had 4 wins, 5 draws, and only 1 loss. Kerr won 18, drew 11, lost only 4 with best winning percentage, 55% of any Ireland manager. He wasn't exciting offensively, but his teams were sound. Now, I did say to Jim, I said, look, I'll respond to this here. Look, I think Brian Kerr, yes, he could coach, but he couldn't do it at the highest level. He couldn't do it at senior level. He won Euros with the under 16s and under 18s. I believe. Oh, I better get that right, Martin. When I tell you about the next comment, heaven forbid I make a mistake, Jesus, or get my years wrong. But yeah, but when it came to the men's national team, it wasn't good, Jim. It wasn't. And okay, yes, he had a 55% win percentage, but most of those wins came in friendlies, and when it mattered, he couldn't do it. And I tell you what you say about the 2004 Euros campaign, Mick. We had the opening 4-2 loss in Moscow to Russia and the 2-1 loss at home to Switzerland. However, the Russian team was in disarray. There was a game against Russia at home where if we beat them, they were out of the running. We would have actually knocked them out of the running, and we would have been guaranteed at least a playoff. But the negative tactics on the Kerr, he lost the players. And he did. He had a public fallout with Robbie Keane. Duff was paraphrased, I think I'm saying that correctly, by John Delaney. Not really helped my argument there, but he turned around and said that, Damien Duff told him that under Kerr they were set up like a pub team, and actually Kerr threatened legal action. There's no smoke without fire. It wasn't good. Yeah, he could coach, but at a youth level. I mean, his only other management job was with the Pharaohs. In terms of international management, obviously he had great success with St. Pat's, but yeah, it just didn't translate what he did with the Euros, and he did with the youth sides with the Euros, winning back-to-back Euros, fantastic. But it did not resonate with the senior team. He only had the highest ranked team he beat competitively was Georgia, and they were 83rd. He did not beat a team competitively in the top 80, and that was a very good side. The performances, I've gone back and watched these. The performances under Kerr were dross. The game against France in Paris in 2004, France were missing a massive chunk of their players. They had a guy making his debut. If I remember, Vieira had retired. Zidane had retired. They obviously came back in the fold later on for the game in 2005, in September 2005. It just wasn't good. He had the game against Israel where he was 2-0 up, made the substitution where he took off. Robbie Keane got injured after it was 2-0 at home to Israel. We were phenomenal in that game, and he took off Keane, brought on Graham Kavanagh, moved Caban, who was having a blinder in the midfield, in the centre midfield with Matt Holland, onto the left. Duff, who was doing brilliantly with Andy Reid on both wings because they were 2-footed, moved him up front with Clinton Morrison, and it ruined it. And we ended up getting a 2-2 draw. You say he was sound. Well, he's 3 away, 2 in the lead anyway. But that's just where I'm coming from with Kerr. Nothing against him, but I just didn't enjoy the football. I thought the football was very poor on the Kerr as well. It was very boring. It was very laborious. We had one decent performance, and that was against Israel at home. Nige Fall, I don't know how you pronounce your name. Ironic that the two lads are on about creating narratives and going on about informed journalists who would be good talking about football. Then David proceeds to spin Kerr's record, ignoring the fact that he has the best win ratio of any Irish manager and only lost a few games. Plus, David had to check the year Brian Kerr was a manager as well, correcting himself. Real hurler in the ditch stuff and ill-informed. Which leads me on nicely to the gripes about the GAA, as if to imply that the GAA is at fault for the state of Irish soccer. That implication is embarrassing. The GAA has had nothing to do with how soccer mismanaged itself from peak of massive crowds of drums v bows to state that the League of Ireland is in today. Well, first of all, you're on about me spinning Nige. Is that not spinning, Martin? If you turn around and say, "Oh yeah, but he had the best record of any Irish manager," but actually don't point out that he didn't beat a team with inside the top 80 competitively, is that not spin?
It is, yeah, it is spin, yeah.
Exactly. So you're doing it. The very thing you accused me of doing, Nige, you're doing yourself. So I mean, have another go there, lad. Also, I do not think. And also the whole thing, the comment about me having to correct myself, plus David had to check the year Brian Kerr was manager as well, correcting himself. I said 2002, which is when Mick stepped down. And then I corrected myself a second later. So actually, no, it's 2003 because we had the game against Greece under Don Gibbons in 2002. And the first game was against Scotland, 2-0 win at the Park in 2003. Yeah, apparently that's ill-informed stuff. That's absolute nonsense. And that itself, if you're trying to discredit me because I made that one error, which I actually corrected without plotting straight away, that is what real hurler in the ditch stuff, whatever that means. I've never heard that expression before. So I think you're
You've already been dug out for the GAA stuff. You need to get acquainted with these phrases, Dave.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But I think on the GAA though, yeah, look, it's an interesting argument. I think like GAA and that we're kind of bashing it at all. I'm a fan of the GAA, so it's not that at all. I think it's a strange sporting situation in Ireland, to be honest, that we have very successful sporting achievements at many different sports. Like the GAA is a dominant force, of course. Also do well in rugby, as we know, the World Cup exploits especially.
Yeah, but we've never
we've never bashed that. No, I've never bashed that.
We've never said that the GAA. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. The FAI are right now in this very moment in the shit because of their own incompetence. It is that simple. And years of mismanagement. No one has said, "Oh, the GAA have done this, the GAA have done that." What I believe I said was that actually no, it's more the there's people there that don't want to see football in Ireland succeed.
Yeah.
And that is true. And we're going to read what I believe that's true anyway. And the FAI keep handing through their own incompetence, keep handing the baton, keep handing the stick over to these guys and hit me again and again and again. Like tonight, we're going to be talking about the Oireachtas meeting was twofold. It was a two-part meeting. One about the Jonathan Hill thing, and the other one was about, we need £1 billion to get facilities up to scratch. That's nothing to do with the GAA. We'd never actually said that. And to imply that is embarrassing. But you're the one implying it, Nige. Not us. So there you go. Thank you for watching, by the way, Nige. And if you you can head over to thegreenmachinepodcast.com and give us a subscribe. Listen, you can have your say. I can have mine. That's my right reply. And you can have your right reply to that, and we'll get back to it next week anyway. Right, Martin, let's get into it. The FAI were at the Oireachtas on the 13th of December 2023. Just putting a little timestamp on that. So we got a few notes here. So I'm reading it from my phone. So we're going to freestyle this a little bit, I think, because it's still new. The Oireachtas report, I think the Oireachtas only finished like this evening in Dublin. But basically, the last time that the FAI were dragged in front of the Oireachtas under a cloud, shall we say, and he never under a cloud, was in 2019, the infamous one with John Delaney, where he took out a note from his solicitor and basically said, "I'm not going to answer any questions because, I don't have to. I have a note from my mammy." But this was a bit different. Roy Barrett, Liz Joyce, and the CEO, Jonathan Hill, the man under fire at the moment, they did engage and they did answer questions. We also had Packy Bonner. He joined on Teams. As you said here, Martin, you did the notes. A bit of a love-in from one TD to Packy, which ate into the time. Were you a bit starstruck, Martin?
Yeah, they were. And that's the thing, it's basically saying to Packy that he was a hero growing up and an inspiration and blah, blah, blah. But, I think it's interesting to understand how the Oireachtas committee TDs have to operate. They get a limited time to kind of get their questions across. Yeah. And if you're going to start kind of blowing smoke I was going to finish that phrase there, but if you're going to start doing that, it does eat into your time to kind of get to the nitty gritty points that you want to get.
You'd be very welcome in Kerry, indeed.
That's it, exactly. You know, and that embarrassing situation in 2019. Right? This was a lot different to then. Yeah, it was an interesting one, really, because a lot will come out from this. And naturally, there was a grilling of the FAI because we all know this scenario they created themselves with this overpayment or holiday lieu payment, which, you know, did sadly resulted in the government breach of kind of the agreement they had when they were bailing them out and giving them money. So they ceased that until they corrected it. Very negative implications from that. So they're rightly going to ask the questions of the board of directors. And it was a weird one, really.
You said in your notes, because you were looking at it all today, that you feel Barrett, who came out and obviously, he was the one that he approved the payment, didn't he?
Yeah, well, so there's two kind of things with this. Is that first of all, there was a lot of questions on Jonathan Hill's salary, which has increased over the years, and one of the TDs did ask him the questions of, can you just kind of confirm your salary increases over time? And this is the fact of this is when he was employed in 2020, his contract laid down that his wage would move in line with the salary for the Secretary General of a government department. And it was a condition of the memorandum of understanding agreed between the FAI and the government when a bailout was thrashed out in 2020. So Hill's income will go up because that's just what's happening in the government, basically, as well. TDs and kind of secretaries are being paid more. So he said that's something actually out of his control because that's the agreement that was done.
He's devastated about that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but one thing about that is, it does go back to that point of when he first went into the FAI, he said to the staff that, we're all into this together and, we're talking about wages and things like that. You're talking about thousands of pounds going to this guy in wages increases on his contract. Whereas, it's, I think, a 3% increase is what some of the kind of basic staff at the FAI have got, and that's why they're quite pissed off with it, to be honest.
Let me read out. I've got some notes here, just basically what the contract situation is. So Jonathan Hill says that the 47,000 euro salary increase he's received since becoming the FAI CEO is out of his control, as you said there, Martin, because it's written into the terms of his contract. It was outlined that when Hill was appointed in 2020, his contract laid down that his wage would move in line with the salary for the Secretary General of a government department. This was a condition of the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, agreed between the FAI and the government when a bailout was thrashed out back in 2020. Now, this is eye-watering money, right? He's on an eye-watering amount of money. However, it still doesn't go near what John Delaney was on. I think he was on over 400 grand. But anyway, Hill explained that his wage had increased from 211,000 euros in 2020 to 217 in 2021. That went up to 250,000 in 2022, and there was a minor rise this year to the figure of 258,000. So he is on 258 grand, but still nowhere near what John Delaney was on, and that is in line with a governmental department. That's not his fault. That isn't his fault. So some of this that's not his fault. That's a 22% jump. That doesn't even include your pension. There was obviously, I think you touched on the staff there. I think a lot of the lower paid staff are very they've only got 3%, and they're looking at that going, "You what? Like, really?"
Yeah.
I mean, that can't be good. And Hill was commented. He said that he thinks staff are now fully aware of it because it's fully reported in the media, his wages. I mean, we don't all know what our CEO gets, but obviously he's down as a government, the Secretary General of a government department, or in England that would be a Secretary of State, wouldn't it? But yeah, he said it's reported in the media, and when he was asked, well, is that a bit damaging for your team morale? He goes, look, it's not something I asked for. It was something that was offered as part of the contract negotiation, as part of the MOU. That is what the contract is. He continues, that's how the contract is structured. As always, the board will look at that and review it. He also said that, look, anything I get here has to be increased by the board. Has to be greenlighted by the board. And Liz Joyce, who we mentioned earlier on, she did actually confirm this. And she said, look, it has to be approved by the board and discussed by the board. She also went on to say that Barrett approached her in December 2022 to discuss the prospect of Hill receiving payment for 12 holidays he wasn't able to take across the calendar year. She was against it. She said when the inquiry was raised, I said I didn't think it was a good practice. That's what she said today. I assumed that was the end of the matter. I became aware that the payment was made in September of this year. I had heard nothing subsequent to the inquiry. So, yes, it was a surprise. So, basically, left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, and Packy was asked about this as well. And
yes.
He did say that he felt disappointed in it, that this decision had been made. And this is where I kind of have a bit of a theory on Barrett. I mean, Barrett's now no longer on chair of the board, and he's stepped down, of course, and he doesn't have to probably be there, I don't think. But he kind of is going to be the fall guy, I think, for this, because really, let's look at it. The FAI kind of come from a very bad place. 2019, John Delaney not answering questions. We put in place these processes and things from the years. This is a big test for them, and they failed with this wages being disclosed by a fantastic scoop, ultimately, from Mark Ty, of course, from Champagne Football. So they've had to they're under scrutiny. We've also people are starting to ask more and more questions of Jonathan Hill. But I do think Barrett is the fall guy. And what I think he's doing that is he's taking responsibility for this. One of the TDs there today actually said it's incredible arrogance, very similar to John Delaney. The fact that he said, I made that decision. I thought it was for the best of the association to give these holidays in lieu. I think, though, as I said, Barrett's taken the fall because ultimately we're going to look back at the 3-year tenure of him as the chair of the board. And you're going to look back and think, right,
you've learned nothing.
Came from a big mess here. Yeah, this guy.
You've learned nothing.
There's been a cock up here, but actually, it's the guy who's now no longer there. He was the one who made that decision. The board won't do it again. Little rap on the knuckles. There you go. I think Packy came out of it quite well. Now we know Packy's a legend of Irish football. There's a lot of people I've seen on Twitter today, even chatting after this, just saying, he's the one who, surely. I think actually Packy referenced some of the information, the processes and things he had achieved when he was technical director of the FAI previously today, which I think I haven't read all that completely, but I think that's quite an astute political move from Packy if he did that. I'd have no doubt at all. I think Packy Bonner will be the CEO in future. I think he is the person for the role in a sense. And I would actually put it out there to the kind of listeners and viewers to see if Packy was involved at a senior level as that role. Would that restore people's faith in the FAI? Would it bring sponsors in? I think Jonathan Hill has to be looked at here a lot more closely. The payment thing doesn't look good. He kind of got away with it a little bit today. The payment didn't look good. He can talk about his wages, but he's never actually been scrutinised on what he's done or not done. We've had for a lot of years a failure, in a sense.
It was kind of asked, wasn't it? Well, why haven't you brought in a men's sponsor yet? And it just got a lot of stuff kind of got covered in the dirt. I mean, here was just some of the comments here. Fine Gael TD Alan Dillon called the FAI's version of events as a cock and bull story. Hill said he was entitled to his opinion. Chris Andrews, Sinn Féin, TD, or Sport Ireland to review all decisions he made over almost a 4-year tenure about Hill. So, you're saying he wants them to look into what he's done. And I agree. Here's a guy who said he was going to move over and he hasn't. He's still living in London. What's that about? How can he be CEO? It's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. What other sport would we be talking about in this country than football? The man who's brought in to, safe pair of hands. He's come over from England. No more controversies. We need to have the windows opened. We need to get rid of the stench of the last few years. We need to get rid of all of that, that stigma that football, administration of football in this country has because of incompetencies from the FAI over different generations, different people doing it. And we need somebody to just be nice and boring. We need money as well. So we need to clear out the air, get rid of all that stench. And then maybe people will start believing in us when we're not making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And here you go. We're right back in it again. And he's just set football back probably another decade. It's going to take about 10 years to rid ourselves of this. And, I'll let you come in a second, Martin. Sorry. I just want to get all the comments in. Chris Andrews, sorry, I mentioned that. His party colleague, Imelda Munster, said, I'm disappointed at this fiasco and don't get the impression lessons have been learned. Casting right, she basically looked over at the Sport Ireland report when she said that. Longford Senator, Micheál Carrigy, we've had a poor leadership and it comes from the top. When we had issues with the Boxing Association a few years ago, it approved as a chairman and chief executive, and maybe something similar can happen here, basically hinting at maybe Hill should go.
Yeah, I've got to question Hill here a little bit on, does he really, for that money as a CEO, is he as an administrator of football, because basically that's what he is in a sense.
Does he need this?
Is he in demand? Does he need this hassle of working with an association that, is in a mess, and he's an outsider coming into it? I just got to question that. Like, why is he bothered? Surely he can go and get another job at UEFA or something, similar money, without having to deal with it. I mean,
this is a very simple job.
Euro 2028, of course, but like, I just don't. I really don't get it. And then even Barrett now, like I see on Twitter as well, Gareth Farrelly, who's quite astute with like football business kind of mindset. He's saying, well, if Barrett's made that decision and now come out with it when he stepped down, surely we've got to be looking at the decisions he's made in the past 3 years. What rings with that though, and kind of gives me a bit concerned, is we are very invested at the moment in Irish football in the search for a new manager, and we've let the board are going to be ratifying all that recommendation. But basically, it's on the back of, I think I said on the podcast before, it's going to be on the back of the recommendation of one guy, Mark Hannam, who's coming in there to do that. Like, what? I know he might have a fantastic CV of what he's done and things like that, headed up the Premier League or whatever he did. But we're going on that direction, and we've done it in the past with, technical directors, the Dutch lads in there, and now we're just going on the say-so of one other person. And that's what they've done at the administration as well, that Barrett was there doing it, and now, and now we've got like Jonathan Hill is going to be, letting him take the fall for that, and it's just still a complete mess. And I think what we're going to have now is positive spin from Hill that we went to the Oireachtas, we answered all their questions, we're up there again in 1st of February because they're in with the Dáil Éireann again on something else, more about the accounting procedures, I think. But, we'll have positive spin now in the next 2 weeks. We'll have a new Irish women's manager. We'll have this search in the background for the men's manager, all the speculation. And it's basically hiding all this other stuff that's going on and it's going wrong in the background.
Well, I don't know. I think this is, I don't see how he could continue. Look, this is the simplest, easiest job in the world for anyone to come in terms of football. And the reason why I say that is all Jonathan Hill had to do was not be John Delaney. Don't get embroiled in controversy. We've had enough of that. Just do as you're told with the government, with the implementation of the gender representation, which finally at the second time of asking got put through. Just don't be like John Delaney. Don't have all of this sort of like dragging the association through the dirt. And it's the same thing, isn't it? It's money. It's money again. People don't. He was going to go in there and he was going to rattle a few cages. We've heard that people in the FAI didn't like him before this. So the first mistake he made, when you are going to have to rattle a few cages and bring in changes, because there's a lot of people in there that there are good people in the FAI that are trying to do their absolute best, right? We're not trying to, that would be unfair to tar them with the same brush, but they need leadership. They need, shit rolls downhill. They need leadership. And then basically you're going to rattle a few cages. So they're going to be out after you. These things are going to get leaked. Absolutely. And then once they're out there, they're going to jump on because, that's what people do because they don't want you there. All you have to do is just keep his nose clean. And yet you have this. And you have Barrett coming out and saying the other day, at the AGM, I'd absolutely do this again. And now he's come out and said, well, actually, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And somebody wrote, somebody wrote an article saying that what Barrett did is a reminder. It's harking back to the bad old days under the FAI, and this is the same meeting. We're going to move it on, but this is the same meeting where, afterwards they have to go, oh, by the way, can we have £1 billion for football, please? It's just, it's so maddening. We need, it needs money. And there's people there that are delighted to see this, because if football gets its act together, then that's going to put a huge pressure on the other sports in Ireland. If it gets that, but it hasn't for the last. It's never had its act together, and it must be maddening. It's maddening for me, and it's maddening for you, I'd imagine. And imagine those people that are involved at grassroots level that do a brilliant job, that are in the FAI, and they're doing their best, and they're trying to bring it forward. I think different departments, the social media departments, and all that. They're trying to get the fans engaged, and then you have this going on from the top, and it's just really, lads. And as I said, you're going to need about 10 years. I think anyway, about 10 years of just nothing, and just simple governance. Get a sponsor in, and just don't cause any problems. And then we'll take it from there. Anyway, we'll move it on. They are also. The FAI are due back in the Dáil on the 1st of February to appear in front of the Public Accounts Committee. And we'll be covering that as well. I'm sure this will grow arms and legs, and if more developing stories from this, we will record. We will be there with our microphones, Martin, won't we?
Yeah, we will.
Yes. Right, we better move on. We've gone a bit over on that. Unbelievable. It has been reported today that a new man has come in to the running to replace Stephen Kenny as Irish senior manager, and that is, well, according to the Telegraph, Bayern Munich assistant coach Anthony Barry. He's a leading candidate for the Republic of Ireland job, but it would require a compensation package to land him from the Bundesliga champions after joining them earlier this year. The FAI will have to determine whether Barry is willing to leave his current dual role with Bayern and Portugal to take his first managerial post. He has a contract with Bayern, with the Germans agreeing a 7-figure compensation package with Chelsea when they target him 8 months ago. There are a load of clubs after him from the Prem, the Championship. Swansea, basically, they're said to be looking, they're trying to replace their manager, and they're looking towards Barry, who's very highly sought after, a very highly thought of coach, and people feel, well, Martin, he's ready for the big time. I had a mate of mine say today that we're scraping the bottom of the barrel going for him if we do. Now, he's not the only lad in contention, but he's one of them. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's scraping the bottom of the barrel at all. Fantastic coach. We had some great success when he was involved with Ireland, and so much so that he was targeted by Belgium to be part of their World Cup team. And then Tuchel's took him everywhere he's been as well, and he's a very successful coach. So, no, he's also come through the FAI coaching setup. So I think that's quite important from a kind of PR spin point of view, that the FAI are looking at people who've kind of come through their model, know the setup of Irish football internationally and what they're trying to do coaching wise. So that's, I think, another big positive for him. My only concern would be, I think he's an up and coming coach, and I think if he started doing well with Ireland, we would want some kind of guarantee that he's going to do
I said this before,
contract 4 years, because he's going to be tapped up and
I think
for different roles, and we're in the same position then in 4 years' time.
I said that we're gonna, like, the next manager would have to be a risk. Look, Kenny was a risk; it was a calculated risk. I think the next manager has to be, Carsley would be a punt, and obviously Barry would be a punt. Barry's 37, Carsley's 50. But you'd have to have a contingency plan, because it's going to be a case of, do you want 4 years? Barry's probably, well, I think at 41, yeah, actually he could. He'd be 37. He'd be just 1 year older than Mick McCarthy, I think, when he got the job in 96. And you'd have somebody beside him say, look, if you do brilliantly, you're going to be sought after. So you're going to train the guy beside you. Let's say, for argument's sake, John O'Shea. You train him up, and then when he comes in, he's going to have his successor next to him. And we just have, like the Liverpool way back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think that's how we're going to have to do it. We're not going to be able to afford a tippy-top manager. We're either going to pay for someone like Steve Bruce, which I don't think is going to happen, or Chris Hughton, who's doing absolutely terribly at Ghana at the moment. No, I agree with you. I think Barry would be, I think he'd be a risk, a calculated risk, but I think he'd be a mass improvement on Stephen Kenny. Do not underestimate his influence. Nick would never forgive us if we didn't mention it. But, absolutely spot on. His influence on that team. He structured that team to set pieces. We were so much better with Barry, and we never recovered. Really, another manager. It was hotly reported yesterday that Lee Carsley. Well, yesterday he had two managers. The shortlist was dwindled down to two: Lee Carsley or Chris Hughton. Now, apparently Anthony Barry as well. Somebody came out. We'll talk about Shay Given in a minute about Carsley, but somebody came out and said, I think it was Kevin Doyle actually. Did he say it about? He said about Chris Hughton that, look, don't think because he's 65 that he's yesterday's man. Like he's still learning, he's still developing. Because the concern about him would be going back to playing the sort of antiquated style of football, wouldn't it? Like he did under Brighton and Norwich. And
yeah, it was Kevin Doyle. Yeah, and he did say that he is a progressive coach and done very, very well and got teams out of the Championship, and also I think referenced the fact that that's where a lot of our players are. They're Championship level players, so he's got great experience of working with players at that level. And I think that is a huge positive for Chris Hughton. I know, I think the Carsley thing is very interesting, and I was going to make the point there where we're talking about Barry is I think this is not going to be the end of. This is not going to be the dream pinnacle job for Barry. I think this is going to be a stepping stone, and I think that's why it won't happen. It's too early for him. Whereas I think Carsley, as an international manager and successful one at that with England, it may well be what he wants to do, like be an international manager, because he's probably the other option he has got is to step up to be the England manager. Whether he's going to hold out for that and be a big enough name for England to kind of entertain is another matter. But I think for us as an Irishman, we want him possibly in there because he is so highly regarded, and it maybe suits him. He's very analytical, very detailed and stuff. I think it was Jolien Lescott who said it to Shay Given. So we've gone around the houses in our information, of course, but Shay was saying like what he's heard about him is fantastic. And, if there's any inkling of interest there, I think, his age, his profile, a young up and coming kind of manager in a sense that he has had some club experience, of course, but he's had success internationally. It suits him working with the kind of program, the time frame program of you have a set players coming into you for a certain time and you work with them for that kind of period. Then you go away and analyze and you give them the detail for the matches. That's what's critical at international football. I think that's what might serve him well and be the number one candidate now.
What did you make of yesterday? Mate of mine sent me getting our information from fucking from our sources or mates on WhatsApp. But he did send me a screenshot on Oddschecker that Chris Coleman is partly, well, as of yesterday, he was the favourite at 3-1.
No, yesterday was bookies moving rubbish.
I hope so. I really hope so. Dreadful. Chris Hughton, Lee Carsley, Neil Lennon, and Chris Hughton apparently.
Yeah,
in that order.
Jonathan Hildo has said, that it is an attractive job, and he is right.
Yeah,
he said, because this team is young and up and coming. Like we
want them in by February.
Yeah, they do, and I think again for the positive spin as well. But I think that's to sell season tickets and move things along. And I think we've got a kind of, if they've spoken to everyone, all the candidates they think they have kind of outlined, you'd hope that it's very positive and going to move quite quickly now. And I know that different managers have different commitments. So, for example, there'll be a release clause I'm expecting with England under 21. Chris Hughton will be out of it, won't he, by then?
Well, you see, here's the thing. Chris Hughton, I think, is in the African Cup of Nations and with Ghana. So if he gets bombed out and he gets fired, and it's like, oh, that's great, because apparently, somebody looked at that and went, and I think it's fair. Well, if they're looking to employ someone by February, they'll be, the African Cup of Nations will be done. So if he's bombed out of that job because they have an appalling African Cup of Nations, do we really want to bring Chris Hughton on board?
I think you can't really compare the jobs, though, in a sense. So, he took that, didn't he, to kind of stay relevant in football. And I don't know.
Forest, he was dreadful at Forest.
Players.
He didn't.
He wasn't great there, but I think it's just kind of another chance, very experienced. I'd have no problem with it in a way if he brought in very, very high class coaches that were part of the kind of future kind of plan, like you've alluded to. So, but I think for me, Carsley coming in there will be an interesting one, and I think you will probably get the honourable contractual kind of situation with him that I think you could say, right, you're an international manager, you know how this works. This is 4 years. Give it to us. 2028 Euros in our own backyard. That should be your aim after the World Cup, of course. But this is a fantastic job for you to kind of look at working towards, and then we'll work it from there. And that like a young Mick in a sense.
You know what you get though. Like it'd be, if you do get someone like Barry in and be, oh, I missed a day-to-day involvement of the football. You hear all this shite again. But anyway, I mean, hopefully by February, that's when the FAI are going to look to have their man in place and the women's manager in charge by Christmas. So hopefully an early Christmas present there. We shall see. We'll keep you updated on that. Right, we're going to finish up with our final topic, and that is, well, yeah, I don't know if you've seen it on. I'm not going to show it on here because of copyright. But yeah, basically during a Turkish game, a Super League game on the Monday just gone, referee got punched in the face by the president of the club. Of a club. There you go. Why not? Just to give you a bit of background on it, Turkish referee Halil Amut Meller, I'm sure I'm butchering that, is left hospital after being treated for injuries suffered in an attack at the end of a Super League game on Monday. Meller, who received a small fracture under his eye when hit by MKE Ankara Gucu president Faruk Koca after his club's match. Sorry, Martin, I hear you. Are you okay? Did you need to blow your nose? I making some weird sounds over there.
This is Turkish football, yeah? It's not Luton Town, is it? They're not playing. We butcher that name as well, don't we?
No. Let's just focus on the task at hand. Against K. Kerr Rizespor. He was pictured leaving the hospital. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of that fucking hospital. The hospital Ankara, which, by the way, is the capital of Turkey, not Istanbul. Eat your heart out, Jim White. I remember he actually said that on that. The capital of Turkey, Istanbul. And I was in the gym. I almost threw weight through the fucking window. Drives me mad, that does. Anyway, the Turkish Football Federation, the TFF, suspended domestic football in the country indefinitely in the wake of the incident. And on Wednesday, confirmed in a press conference that all leagues would resume on December 19th. The TFF president, Met. Oh, it's late. Fuck off. But Yakeshi said Meller would not be quitting referee because of the attack, which is, why should he? Turkish Justice Minister Yilmaz Tunç said on his Twitter account on Tuesday that Koca had been arrested for injuring and threatening a public servant due to his public duty. Koca later renounced his retirement as president via his club's official website. You've seen the incident, Martin. Absolutely disgraceful. I mean, we're not making light about it. You're just making light of my below George Hamilton rate pronunciation. Jesus, it is late, folks. By the way, it is.
Yeah, no, completely outrageous, the incident, and you've got to clamp down on that in footballing circles because we know that it does filter through.
And they're hosting the Euros after us in 2032.
Yeah, so look, you just got to condemn that. It's not needed in football, not nice to see, and fair play. Like the Turkish FA seem to have taken action quite promptly to kind of suspend all football, and
disgusting.
It's
disgusting. If you haven't seen it, have a look at it. It's absolutely appalling, and our best wishes to Miller. Yeah, no, best wishes to. No, honestly, I mean that's absolutely dreadful. The lad's doing his job. Look, we don't always agree with referees, and there's a couple of referees that you probably love to give a kick up the arse, but we said it metaphorically. We don't actually mean that. These guys are doing their jobs. Absolutely terrible. But anyway, that is where we're going to leave this one here, Martin. We're going to wrap it up, but not before we give you guys a quick reminder. If you're in the London area on the 14th of December, in Hendon specifically, even more specifically, the Claddagh Ring, Martin and I will be over there. Martin is going to interview the Liam Brady. So special he's called the Liam Brady. But yes, the Liam Brady interview, which will be taking place in the Claddagh Ring. It is free admission on the door, by the way. We reckon the interview is going to start about 7:30. Get there for 7. Get there for 7 o'clock. Free admission. You can buy his book and he'll sign it for you. £25. All proceeds go to the North London Hospice. That is the North London Hospice. Martin and myself will be there. We're going to have a great crack. It's to do with Risk London, as you can see up there. If you're watching on YouTube, got a little Santi hat on there. And Lansdowne Roar down the bottom right. Controversial, Martin. We'll basically, we're changing the name to Lansdowne Roar. There, I said it. There, I fucking said it. Lansdowne Roar. We're going to change the name to, basically, we're going to change the website address to lansdowneroar.ie. There you go. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah. Basically, nothing's going to change in the way we do things. We're still going to be going to the games. The FAI haven't suspended my taken my lanyard away from me for the reporting over the last few weeks. But yeah, it's going to be the same. But it's just we're just tidying things up a little bit. But there you go. The Liam Brady interview. That's in the Claddering tomorrow night. Martin and I, they come and say hello. Please do. We'd love to see you. Love to have a chat as well. And if you want to buy me a drink, well, why not? You might to turn that down. Not for Martin though. No. If you need a book, Martin has them. He doesn't just do tickets, folks. He does books as well. £25. Proceeds go to the North London Hospice. It's going to be a fantastic night, and I cannot wait for it. Well, that brings us to the close of another State of Play episode. Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Do comment below on the YouTube channel. If you don't follow us on YouTube, well, why not? Head over to Lansdowne Road, YouTube, Lansdowne Road, and give us a cheeky subscribe. Tell your friends, if you like what we do here, please leave a review, a 5-star review. Please tell everybody about the podcast that is actually the voice of the fans. You can also head over to greenmachine.podcast.com for now, and you can get all of our episodes, an audio version of this, articles, and all of that jazz. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter too. Well, Martin, I will see you tomorrow in the Claddering with your suitcase full of books, and hopefully we'll see you on the next episode of The State of Play. Good night.